Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Welcome to Footwork.
Joining us today is Rich Gordon, photographer, creative, many more things. Played D1 soccer at USF. Rich transitioned into a career still so close to the game, working in the sport, capturing, creating stories on and off the pitch. So we're very excited about today. Thanks for coming on and welcome to Footwork, Rich.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta say, I played at UCF.
Zach. So I checked with Zach, my brother, and he said USF because I knew it was one of the Floridas. We had talked about it. We played futsal together out in LA when I was there. So I asked him to double check, and Zach was wrong. I'm putting it all on him.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. We could do like a PTI where they have the guys that does the fact checks in the middle of the show.
Exactly.
University of Central Florida, which is in Orlando. University of South Florida is in Tampa, which is not accurately named. I grew up in South Florida, which is a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, and USF is nowhere near South Florida. Anyways, that's a little bit of UCF hate on USF. But anyways,
I see.
I didn't know
is there a rivalry between the schools?
There is.
There is?
Football field, American football fielded when they were in the later like 2010, 2011s, USF started getting really good. And then UCF also started getting really good. So now they call it the I-4 rivalry because I-4 is a highway that connects Tampa to Orlando. Yeah. And so, and in soccer too, the men's programs are pretty decent because Florida schools, American football is the biggest thing. So a lot of the times the men's soccer programs are what get cut because it's either you have either or, and so but USF and UCF happen to have both men's football teams and men's soccer teams, so it's kind of unique.
When you were there, was UCF dominant or?
We were in a small conference, Conference USA. So we were dominant, not conference. Actually, not even. It wasn't even called that. It was called like Sun Conference or something like that.
Sun Belt? Is that
the conference doesn't exist anymore?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it got changed to Conference USA. We were cool in our conference, but whenever it came to like tournament wise, that's when you really started facing like the big dogs, Wake Forest and all those people, and like it was just a different level. So but it was cool. It was cool being a part of the team. I was a part of the team for like 2 years. Honestly, I was just a walk on, and I didn't really play much. I was on the practice squad, but like I earned a varsity letter out of it and was a part of the team, and everybody, it was a great experience being a part of a D1 program and seeing the ins and outs of it and like the hard work every day. I was the fittest I was my entire life. I was just like,
we getting back to that post-COVID?
Oh man, I'm so far from that. I don't know if you guys did this. There was this thing called Cooper test. Did you guys do Cooper test?
We didn't do it, but I know the Cooper test.
You've heard of the legends of the Cooper test? Yeah. So 2 miles in 12 minutes and then another mile in 6, and you have like 30-second rest. So basically 3 miles in under 18 minutes. And that was like the standard. That was like you had to do it. My school was sponsored by Adidas at the time, and so we got like Adidas boots and stuff. You couldn't get no boots. You couldn't get no uniform unless you passed the fitness test.
Unless you passed the test. Wow.
Yeah. So you had to pass it. So I mean, back in those days, I was doing it, man. I think I was like, I don't know, I was close to like a 17:33 mile, and like, I don't even know. Like, I can't fathom running that fast.
Doing that again, yeah. Tough to get back. Yeah. So before we kind of get into, how soccer has influenced you growing up and into college and even, beyond that, we're going to start with a little rapid fire questionnaire just to learn a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Favorite team?
Just in general.
Well,
Like
soccer,
globally?
yeah. Soccer
Like,
globally,
okay,
yeah. If you have two answers of the MLS team or not
Okay.
two, we can bring that in.
Yeah. So Arsenal, 100%. Like I'm an Arsenal fan through and through. Been an Arsenal fan since '99 when Thierry Henry went there, and that's it. Like
That was a good time.
Arsenal
That
has
was a
been
good
my
time to
team.
be an Arsenal.
There was a good time, long time ago. Then
Yeah.
so, yeah. So Arsenal through and through. I live in LA now. I have season tickets to LAFC, so I guess I support LAFC in that way. And yeah, my second team is PSG. People would think I'm a PSG supporter diehard with the amount of PSG jerseys that I own. But that's
They're
more
fresh.
because
They're so fresh though.
That's more because of style and stuff. And it's a plus that they're okay in Champions League. Yeah. So those are the teams.
Fair. All right, favorite male player?
Thierry Henry, I just mentioned him. So obviously he's retired, but still, like for me, he's the GOAT. And then let's see, currently play. Actually, my favorite two players, because I'm an old head, are Thierry Henry and David Beckham. So yeah,
Class. Did you see that video of Thierry Henry at the Belgium training, just casually with his left foot putting it top ends?
Yeah, with his left foot. Yeah,
classic. Crazy. All right, the age-old, beat it to the ground question: Messi or Ronaldo?
Dang.
Tells a lot about a person, this question.
Oh, geez, man. This is such a tough question.
You can defer too. You can say like, well, we appreciate both. You can give that answer. Let's see.
I think it's tough because they're two different types of players. I'm gonna take that stance. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll respect that. Yeah. Shoot.
What if we rephrase it? We're starting a club. You have to pick one in their prime. Who are you taking? Does that make it tougher?
Does that make it easier?
That may have made it tougher, but I think, oh man, people are gonna get on me for this.
I think you can make reasons for both. I do.
I would take Messi because then you can build a team around the midfield, the guy that runs the midfield. Cristiano it's kind of like, if it all goes bad, it all goes bad with Cristiano, but it all goes bad with Messi too. Like, like with Argentina, we see that so much. I mean, if Messi doesn't win Copa America with Argentina this year, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It's going to be a tough one though. Brazil's so good too.
Cristiano has won his regional tournament. Obviously, he wasn't even on the field, so that's kind of by default. I don't know. So it's weird. Like
it's a larger discussion.
Yeah. So, but I would just say I'm happy that I grew up. I've watched their entire careers. I'll watch them retire, and so two of the greatest players ever to play the game, and I've been blessed to watch all of it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm with you on the Messi pick, by the way. I think Dylan is too. I think we're in agreement across the board here. All right, then back to best women's player right now.
Best women's player.
Or your favorite?
Rose Lavelle is a baller.
She's a baller.
She's a baller, and she's she's a nondescript baller. Like, you wouldn't expect her to be doing the things she's doing. So yeah, I would probably say Rose Lavelle. But that girl, she's also a baller. The Australian chick.
Yes.
What's her name? Sam Kerr.
Yeah,
Sam Kerr.
baller
Sam Kerr. Yeah.
At Chelsea.
Yeah. She's another level. So I would say like those were the first two that came just top of my head
Mhm.
because like all around player, like again, similar, like in the midfield, doing things, like running things. I think they pushed Sam up to play
Mhm.
forward more, but like Roosevelt's in that middle. She's just
She
like
pulls the
doing her
strings,
thing.
right?
Dictating the game.
Yeah, dictating the game and like so she's definitely a baller.
Love it. Okay. We'll see if this is an easy one. Nike, Adidas, or Puma?
My closet would say Nike.
Okay.
It just chose for me. Yeah. So,
Okay, that's the default. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have all three brands, and I have actually played soccer in all three brands.
Oh,
I think right now I have a pair of Puma cleats, pair of Adidas cleats, and the Nike joints. Do I have an active pair of Nike cleats? I did. Oh, I traded them for the Adidas ones. That's what happened.
okay. All right. But default, the closet says Nike.
Yeah. No.
Fair. Favorite cleat? Stick on that topic. Past or
Yeah.
present?
So the favorite cleat is this one. I'm just gonna show.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, on
one
hand.
Love that.
It's
Wow, I'm excited.
I feel like it's going to be a classic.
A vintage Predator. I'm calling it.
I'm going to say Nike Tiempo. Like either the
Can't go wrong with
Ronaldinho
that
edition
either.
or.
you guys are votes are in.
Our votes are in.
What do we got
Oh,
here?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sounds right.
this is the indoor version, but
Mhm.
I played in these, and then I also
classic.
played in a few other iterations of the Predator, and so yeah,
Hell yeah.
they are heavy as heck.
Very heavy.
I
Very
will say
heavy.
that.
But all
and when they get
boots were
wet-
heavy at that time.
Yeah, they were. When they get wet, it's a whole nother thing.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
different story. It's a different story. I
Yeah.
think they should bring back the strap
No.
though. Even though it snapped all the time, I was a big fan of the strap on the Predators.
Yeah, it's cool while it
to hold the
lasted.
tongue.
The whole tongue
yeah,
thing, yeah.
It's part of the swag.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Beckham is a big part of why I like those cleats. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
me too. Okay, so best stadium you've been to. I know you've been around. We'll get into that too, but
Wembley.
okay,
The
wow.
new Wembley.
Need to go.
Yeah.
Can imagine.
Mhm.
All right. Volley or free kick goal?
You're scoring
Free
it too,
kick.
Rich. You're scoring it.
Free kick.
Free kick.
Free kick. Because
Okay.
I mean, again, the like idolization of Beckham. So free kick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's your celebration afterwards? You running to the corner, to the fans, to the camera?
I'm running to the corner and I'm doing the Henri celebration where I'm boxing the corner flag
Love
or
that.
doing
Okay.
the boss stance and holding the corner flag like this.
Oh, that one is iconic.
Mm-hmm.
He's combined.
Yeah.
I like it. You combined all the idols into one goal and celebration. It's perfect. Probably wearing the Predators as he does it too.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. And last one, a little topical here. So we've seen who got out of the group stages, but who do you have winning the Euros from here?
My pick in the beginning was France.
Mhm.
I picked back in 2018. My pick was France to win the World Cup, and I'm gonna stick with France. Like I know, like that right now, other teams are like coming up, and it's looking tougher than. But France, I mean, look, France plays Switzerland. You
They
know,
have one
like
of the better
in this
first round
next round.
matchups. Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, and then like England plays Germany, which I don't even know what's gonna happen in that game.
Yeah.
It's a
But
crazy one.
yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with France.
Cool. Yeah, I think Sean,
Okay.
who did you have to win?
I have Belgium winning.
So Belgium, I
Yeah.
have Portugal, and so one of ours is going to be out. Belgium or Portugal in this next round.
No.
Crazy draw. I can't wait for it all.
The fact that they drawn together, like
It's
it's
crazy.
like, yeah.
That whole
I
side
saw
of the
some
bracket
meme
is
and
tough.
it was like Ronaldo. He's like, I score 5 goals in the group stages and I get the number 1 team in the world in the draw. It's crazy.
He can't catch a break.
Can't catch a break. Tap in, Ronnie. All right, so let's transition. Then we'll go back into some more fitting topics for while we're here today. So, first, can you just talk to us a little bit about how maybe soccer influenced your life growing up, your early life?
Yeah, I grew up first generation Jamaican American. My parents moved here at different times in their life. They met in New York and moved here from Jamaica. And so like soccer was always a part of my life, just through my uncles and my older cousins and stuff like that. And one of my specifically one of my older cousins, he's like maybe like 9 years older than me. He played college soccer and then went to Germany to play like lower division as well. And I saw that and I was like, all right, I think this is something I want to try to do. And so I was always drawn to the game. At the park, at the barbecue, my uncles, they would be juggling the ball, they'd be playing, and it would just be a part of it. But my house, my dad was a big sports fan in general. So I grew up watching everything. I watched hockey, I watched baseball, I watched golf, I watched NASCAR, Formula One, like it was everything, basketball. And we were big sports fans too. So we're fans of the Miami Heat, Miami Dolphins, and everything like that. But obviously soccer, it wasn't the number one sport. And I knew that, but I knew it was the number one sport in the country where my family was from. And so, starting to come up in like around the 98 World Cup, I think I was 13 and when the 98 World Cup came about, or 12, 13. And it was a big eye opener, because it was like soccer was everywhere on the TV, even more so than 94, because 94 I was really young. I was like 10 or 9. And I don't know if I had a full grasp. I didn't go to any games, anything like that. And it was just, it definitely seemed still a little bit distant.
Mm-hmm.
But 98 was the year. I feel like that was the year that I was like, so soccer.com used to be called Eurosport, and it was a catalog that you would buy.
Yeah, I remember.
So even before that, it was called TSI, and so they transitioned. And anyways, I got the catalog. I remember I bought my shoes. I had my ball. That was the time I was like, I had the cleats and the ball, and I was watching the game, and and I was like really into it. And I remember I felt like I didn't really have a group of people with me watching. I was just watching the games by myself. And but 98 was a turning point. And that was a turning point. That was when I became a fan of Henry, because he debuted in that tournament. And just really love for the game. Jamaica, that's the only World Cup they've made. I still have that jersey from the 98 World Cup, So yeah, 1998, I was about 12. My fandom grew, but then I was also playing. I started playing soccer when I was like 10. And so, but 98 was like the shift where it was like, oh, okay, I'm also a fan of this game. And then I'm also going to be keep on playing and try to get better. And then I think around 99, the Miami Fusion came to like my neighborhood, my town, and they were called the Miami Fusion, but they didn't play in Miami. They played in Fort Lauderdale, and
what
which
is
was like
what is
20
with
minutes
the
from my
people
house.
having these names in Florida and not playing in their correct name, like
So they played in Fort Lauderdale, and I would go to the games. I mean, it was the greatest thing. We had professional soccer, and also the stadium started hosting international games, and preseason for MLS was held in Florida. So I would go to preseason matches and see everybody play, and I became a fan of MLS because of it. This was kind of like after the shift when MLS dropped the like the hockey shootout type style penalty kicks.
I kind of miss it.
Midfield.
Yeah. So this was after. So the game started becoming more like the European game, and then players actually started coming, like different players from South America. I remember we had a dude named Carlos Yomosa, and Pineda Chacon, and these guys from South America bringing South America flair. And so I would like ball boy, or like whatever in Europe they call it, mascot.
Oh, cool.
For the game. And so I became a fan of, also then started to become a fan of the game here in the States, right? And so it was just like this interesting pairing. And then so Miami Fusion folded, I think, in 2001, and I was at the last game, and then that's where my fandom, it was a torn fandom between Jamaica and the United States, and Jamaica was always fighting to make the World Cup. And I remember there was like 2 cycles where like Jamaica had to beat the US to get in the last hex, and like US beat them. And so I was always torn, like, I was like, all right, US is in, but then Jamaica's out. And it was just always this like dichotomy with that.
I was going to ask, is it one of those situations where you have like the 2 kits on and, like you'll take one off?
I have to be honest, like I would always just choose the underdog in that situation. And it was Jamaica, and like, I shot the Gold Cup final in 2017, and it was US versus Jamaica in San Francisco. I wore my Jamaica kit underneath my photographer vest. You're not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to support a team. And but then when US won, I was like, well,
just keep the vest on.
Best of both worlds. I guess it's best of both worlds. I am gonna support, the US win and stuff like that. So but that was honestly, that was the last time, honestly, that I feel like Dempsey suited up competitively for the US team, other than the qualifiers that they just bonked, after that. But yeah, so that's kind of like my upbringing with soccer. Like it's just, I was always an athlete growing up, and wanting to like play, but my hands aren't big enough and I'm not tall enough for basketball. So I love the sport, diehard Miami Heat fan, but soccer was just the one that fit. And but it's been a love-hate. Like I've probably given more to soccer in my early stages. Now soccer is giving me a lot back, but earlier on, because I wasn't the best. I was never the best. I was never the accolades. I was never the all-star in club. I never made the all-star, never really made the all-star team, maybe once, like it was just. And
but you were giving a lot to the game, right?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Like I was at practice 3 times a week. I was always doing, I was at the games, and then when high school rolled around, it was like you wanted to make, even though high school soccer in Florida is like, it's like whatever. At my school was very competitive. And so it was like, you wanted to wear the soccer jersey to the lunchroom at lunchtime, like, cause on game day,
gotcha,
right? It was like a thing. And so I actually tried out for my high school soccer team 4 years in a row and did not make it each year, including my senior year.
Wow.
So, but the thing that was weird is I played soccer in club with all the guys that played on my high school team. So like, it was just weird. Like, I think the coach just had something in his head after the first year, and then the second year, and then the third year, and then senior year, I thought it was for sure. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm on it. Like, there's no way. And then I literally made, like, how they do like multiple cuts and like multiple rounds because so many kids coming out.
Tell me you made it to the last round.
I made it to the last round, and we don't have the thing is, the unique thing about Florida is there's no JV soccer and at least when I was in high school, JV and varsity, because there's just not enough like resources, because all the resources go to football. Go to JV football and varsity football. So you have a lot of guys just trying for one team across all 4 grades. And so it was just this like interesting thing. But I was like, I'm a senior now. It's just definitely, this is like it. Like I'm in it, man, I made the last cuts and that was it. My name was on the sheet. And I was like, I'm done with soccer. I'm done. Like I was a senior in high school, and I was like, I'm over it. Soccer season in Florida is at the beginning of the school year. And like, I was like, nah, I'm done with this. Like, so I went and ran track. So my senior year, I ran track. I ran the 400 and the 200, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Track was amazing. It was the camaraderie, the fun. It was fun to track meets because, again, South Florida, big thing is track and field sports, and it was hype. It was like everybody came out to track meets, and I enjoyed it. But when I got to college, the bug kind of bit me again for soccer, and I was like, all right, let me try to like train, and walk onto the team. Went on a team where everybody like, had hella scholarships and stuff like that, and recruiting and stuff. So, yeah, it's been a long playing soccer. I've given a lot to playing, but it ended up repaying me in other ways.
So what was that like though, after all those setbacks, to be like, I'm going to train, and then you ultimately did walk on? So what was that process like? And then what was that feeling like? You know, you said you didn't play as much, but like you still made it after that. So what was that feeling like?
Yeah, it was interesting. And even in that process, it was hella setbacks. Like honestly, like I look back on it and I remember it was a plan, right? We like me and my roommate, one of my best friends, he was in my wedding. We were like, all right, we're training. We're gonna go to walk-on tryouts. We knew the date, we were ready. And we had been playing, we had club team. So it was like club where you travel in high school, but there's a club in college that's funded by SGA. And so we played on that club team, and we were traveling and we were playing. It was like a repeat of what we had in high school, but now we're in college. And it was pretty competitive. And so that kept us fit and playing and stuff like that. So we're ready to train. It's the end of the fall. We're going into spring, and the walk-on tryouts are at the beginning of the spring season. And man, I'm ready. I drive back to college. It's like 3.5 hours distance between Orlando and where I grew up in South Florida. So I drive back, and I start feeling sick, and I'm like, man, why do I feel like this? Man, when I get back to the dorm, it blew up. I had strep throat and mono at the same time. Like It was crazy, and I was like, I can't. I'm knocked out, and I had to like tell the coach, like, I can't come to I'm sick, So my roommate goes to the open tryouts and he does his thing. He's honestly better than me, and I'm like, he should do his thing, right? But the interesting thing was, is the open tryouts, there was just tons of people, and so the coaches couldn't really like look at people like that. And he came back and he was kind of frustrated. He was like, man, they didn't even necessarily like look at me like like I wanted to and stuff. So anyways, I'm emailing with the coach, and he's like, well, listen, when you get better, just come to one of the spring practices. And so I got over being sick, and I just go to a practice. It's not a tryout, it's just a practice. And he just like has me come out. So I do my thing at the practice, and he goes, listen, hey, like, it's kind of late. We already have like some commitments and stuff like that. But, here's the thing, like, we got this spot that is kind of, like I said, like a practice spot. And but you'll have extra responsibilities. Basically, it's like you got to take care of the gear, like grab the balls and the gear, and be there before and be there after. But we like what we see from you, but it's just like all our spots are taken. And because it was later in, because it took me a while. It took me like 3 weeks to get better from being sick. And so, and he was like, what do you think? And I was like, this is not the route that I, was thinking about, but you know what? I'm going to go with it. And so it turns out, because I got sick, I got like a one-on-one individual conversation, and then that opened the door into this other thing, to the point where like I was like, all right, let me do this. And then I ended up getting a little bit of scholarship, which was weird because there were guys that were starting on the team that were getting nothing. They were just getting like maybe books paid for. And so it was just because I had these extra duties, right? And so yeah, and then that lasted 2 seasons. Every day it was training, every day. Even the players, they were like, Richie, you want to make this, and they would push me, to be better. and to play at the speed that I need to play at the level that that would require, and I learned a lot. I mean, at that time too, because I was out there first, training the goalkeeper, like shooting on the goalkeepers was one of the things that I would do. And man, my shot was the best it's ever been then. Like, because it was like every day was an hour of shooting. And so, and the goalkeepers would push you. If you didn't put it in the corner, they'd be like, man, what's that trash? Get that out of here. Like, so they wanted you to train them hard, and, so it was cool. And so it built a lot in me to say, like, okay. And what I realized is, and I kind of came to the conclusion, I was like, I started this like journey of like this dedicated, like focused training a little late in the game. And like, so I like look at like the progress I made, and I go, all right, cool. Like for the time in which I started it and when I started it, I made a decent amount of progress. And I actually got better as I got older. And not a lot of people can like say like they like make those type of jumps, So so that was college. And like by the end of it, I got a Letterman jacket with my initials inside of it. And
nice.
Nice.
So it's like,
wear that at the lunch table.
Yeah, and it's
full
great
circle.
memorabilia now. When I pull it out, people are like, yo, that's dope. What is that? Like, and I was like, yo, it's just I got to be a part of the program and for a bit. And then after that, college soccer was club soccer. So like
Gotcha.
I still had like 2.5 years left in college. And so I ended up being the president of the club team. And I actually traveled more in like around the country with the club team.
Interesting.
Than I did with the first team. And we played in tournaments. We went to nationals. Like Gainesville had the Gators, they had this huge invitational every semester.
Mm-hmm.
And it was huge. I mean, teams from everywhere, from all over, big schools that have big D1 programs, but then also schools that don't. And so their club team was all the players that probably would be playing D1. Like at Gators, they don't have a men's program. So all these guys were the ones that were like going to school, going to games, UF for engineering and stuff like that, but they were really good. They could probably play D1. So the competition of these tournaments, man, was like, it was
high level,
intense. And it was like club in high school. It was 3 games in 1.5 days. And then if you make it to the next round, 2 more games. And then by the end of the weekend, you could play 7 games. Like
which is a crazy thing. Like, it's insane.
And it was Florida Heat. So it was just God. Like
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we had guys cramping. Cramps were so like you just be running and they'd be like, oh,
it would be like, oh, another cramp
falling over. Yeah, but honestly though, that built a camaraderie, and the guys, I have guys that are lifelong friends because of that club soccer team. Like we still go watch Arsenal games together. Like it's still like we live in different parts of the country now, but like it's a forever bond that we created through that club team. And so yeah, soccer again, like it gave back to me in ways that I wasn't like expecting, right? Okay. And so yeah, so now I can look back and be like, oh, well, if it wasn't for a club team, I wouldn't have these friends, and like, yeah, so
that's
it's
cool.
Interesting.
It seems like that was kind of the start of soccer giving back to you. Like you said, like it's giving back to you so much now and currently. So let's transition into, maybe more what you're doing now and how you started. So photography, content creation, blending street, soccer culture, all of these things. I mean, the list goes on. So were you interested in these areas growing up? Did you get into it in college? How did you make that transition? But still being so part of the game?
So honestly, it's like kind of 2 parts. Creatively, I was always a creative, like had a creative inclinations when growing up. So I would draw comics, and I wanted to be an architect. I always had this like mind of like how does things work, you know, like and I got a computer fairly early. And I was the guy in high school. I was burning Dreamcast games and selling them. And I was on LimeWire downloading music. And like, you know, like
LimeWire.
I was like kind of always like techy in a way, along with the creativity. In high school, I took a computer graphics class, learned Photoshop when I was in high school. And you know, so like I always like knew I wanted to do this. And by the time I graduated high school, honestly, I was like, I'm gonna do graphic design. Like that's what I wanted to do. And so two things, I chose UCF, one because they had a graphic design program, and two, they had a men's soccer team. So it was a twofold thing. Or else I would have went to like a school like UF or FSU in particular, because I had always supported growing up FSU's football team, American football team. Because I like the colors. And so, you know, like that was, but I went to UCF for that reason, for the graphic design program. And then they had a men's soccer team, and that was like a goal of mine. So the creative side of me was always there. The technical side of me was always there as well. Kind of being like techie and stuff like that. And then there was soccer. And honestly, the worlds didn't really connect until like I made a logo for my club team, you know, in college, and designed like the jerseys and stuff. And so that was like the first little touch of it. I got the screen prints made and everything like that. And then I remember a friend of mine, it was kind of the catalyst for designing the jerseys. He had a clothing line that that was like soccer based, and he needed to revamp his logo. And so like I remember I like revamped the logo for him and did all this stuff. And so that was kind of like the first touch points of the creativity mixing with soccer. But honestly, they were always separate. You know, it was always going to be my job, and then I was going to play soccer, you know, and this was what I did for work, and, you know, play soccer. And then I started a company with some friends of mine customizing sneakers and like hand painting sneakers. And that's how I got into photography, because we needed to take photos to sell the shoes. And so we started selling the shoes on an old website called MySpace, and
Classic.
and yeah, and Facebook, and so, but we needed photos to kind of push it and sell them. So that's when I bought my first camera, was to take pictures of sneakers. And again, everything's separate. Soccer is not even in it, and you know, and so yeah, so that's what I did, you know. And then I went on this journey, creative journey, career journey of getting my master's degree in marketing and branding, and like running the company, but then like having to take, you know, the company, my partner went and did something else, and then I got a job as a web developer in Orlando, and I was a web developer for 2.5 years. And like, you know, like it was just like a long journey of career wise. Soccer was always there. I was always playing the Sunday leagues, always playing pickup, always playing the 7-7 leagues, always just playing. Like that was just a thing. Like that's what I did. But then 2014, I got an opportunity to move to LA and a job working in the music industry. And so I took the leap, you know, quit my job in Orlando, packed up my stuff, and drove to LA from Florida in 2014, January 2014. So I was working in the music industry, doing kind of a design creative job for a talent management company. And end of 2014, they were just like, yo, today's your last day. Bye. And I basically was left with having to figure it out. I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Anyways, fast forward to the beginning of 2015. I find this account called Kicks to the Pitch and on Instagram. And I'm like, yo, this account's talking about like sneakers and soccer. Like, this isn't like, this is kind of cool, because this was always me. Like in high school, I had a job at a sneaker store. Okay. That was like that was my first job. And so I made money to buy sneakers. Like that's what I did. And so, you know, but the worlds never really collided. It was like always two separate worlds. Hip hop, basketball, sneakers was over here, and then soccer was over here. Right. And so like it was always separate. So I saw this account, Kicks to the Pitch, and I was like, yo, there's going to be this tournament at a high school. are you going to be there? I messaged the account, and the guy that started it, Curtis, was like, yeah, I'll be there. So we meet, and I'm like, yo, man, I ain't got no job right now. I'm driving for Uber and Lyft trying to figure out this LA thing. And whatever help you need, I'm down to help, because Kicks to the Pitch sounds like me. And so that's where it began, beginning in 2015. I made like some pitch decks, and I started doing stuff for Kicks to the Pitch. And then it all started to escalate really fast. And I think I shot my first soccer game was U.S. women's national team against Mexico national team. In like the beginning of the summer in 2015. That was my first soccer game I ever photographed. And then I realized it opened my eyes to this whole world of like, oh, I can get a credential, I can shoot a game. Like I didn't know anything about that. I had never even put a zoom lens on my camera before like that. You know, like it was just completely fresh. And then Kicks to the Pitch started doing content. We started producing videos. And I started taking pictures of product. And this was a time where brands were starting to make a lot of products for soccer. Like soccer was starting to become cooler. And like it was 2014. We're coming off the heels of the 2014 World Cup. You know, all the hype that was, all the block parties, everybody watching the game. You know, it was something new and vibrant. And so that began the journey of being creative with soccer, which up until that point, if you know, and you guys probably followed along, there wasn't part of the plan. I didn't know it was possible. I didn't know it was a thing. And so I was just a creative that happened to play soccer and be a fan of it. And then the two worlds merged in 2015.
I love that. And just to even bring it back to like that transition after you left the job in the music industry and stuff, and kind of were left on your own. Did you feel like during that time you were doing a little bit of soul searching, like, okay, the next thing I'm doing is going to be like something I'm passionate about? Or do you just feel like you were just trying to just stick your foot in some areas and it just kind of collided?
Yeah, I went through that. That was a rough time. You know, end of 2014, I was 29, and the next year I turned 30. And so it was in 2015. And so it was definitely like a moment of like, well, what the heck am I doing? Like, this wasn't like, I'm back at square one. Like, how am I supposed to, like, am I even supposed to be doing this? Pretty much. Like, I was just questioning, like, you know, like, what am I supposed to be doing? And so I was caught between two minds, you know, like, okay, I need to go find another job, right? That like is maybe more corporate or something like that. Or let me bet on myself, right? And so I think when the Kicks to Pitch thing came about, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to kind of do freelance, and I'm going to kind of like lean into this and really help build this thing and see what comes of it. And so yeah, it was tough. It was tough to kind of like even like compare myself, like, you know, comparisons, because when you're an athlete, you're always competitive, and with competitive nature comes comparison, right? You're always like looking next, like, okay, who's doing this, then you're trying to like, well, he's the same age as me, or he's the same height as me, or he plays the same position as me, right? Like, and whose stats are better. And so, you know, subconsciously I started doing that with like my friends and looking at their lives and being like, man, they got house, family, kids, and, you know, and like doing this thing, and like this is not where I was supposed to be at this point, you know, like there's a little in the plan. And so I had to like break through that mindset and just like kind of put my head down and go back to the grind that had gotten me to the point where I was. And yeah, everything's like kind of metaphorical. It's so interesting. Everything's kind of like you know, soccer and then like real life kind of like always like correlates. When I moved to LA, I was injured actually, so I couldn't play. I was coming off an ankle injury, horrible. Like my ankle was the size of like there was like 2 tennis balls on either side of my ankle. And then I was like coming off of that injury when I moved to LA. So I'm like hobbling. I remember I went out to try out for a team, And I'm like, no, I'm good. And the guy's like, are you okay? You're not really moving. No. And I was trying to fake it. Like I was trying to like my ankle was better, you know? And, but yeah, it was just like every now and then you get hurt, you got to work back from it. And so that was what it was with me losing my job and having to make that transition. But the plan, you know, I attribute it to the man upstairs had a bigger plan and a plan that I couldn't have seen. And if I didn't lose my job, I wouldn't have stepped in to say, hey, I'm going to do this. And I actually wouldn't have had time to do it, to say I'm going to help. And then that led to a lot of the experiences over the last 6 years.
Super tough to see it in those times, but there can always be like that silver lining, where one failure, if you even want to call it a failure, one setback really just opens the door for an opportunity that was, I guess, more meant to be and more aligned to you and who you are and what interests you. It's amazing how it comes full circle like that.
Yeah, it seems like it's a reoccurring theme, because even at UCF, not USF, you wanted to go to the tryouts, but you got sick, but then it wound up working to your benefit. That 3 weeks later, you got kind of you just played with a team. It wasn't a tryout. And then you were offered this job, which then led to you playing with the team, and you're getting extra training every day because you have to do a little extra work. And it's just kind of like you've stuck to everything you love, and somehow in a weird way it worked out for the better. And then
go ahead.
And coming back to like sticking to your own path without comparing yourself, what are some things that you did to keep that mindset? Because it is difficult in your situation. You're 29, you lose your job, and you see everyone else around you, they have a full-time job, they have a house, maybe they have a family now, and you're like, what am I doing here? But at the same time, you wound up sticking to what you loved, which was like creative things and the game. And it wound up, you just wound this took this path that was both fields, both worlds, and now you've made a career out of it.
I think it was just like this drive of like I can't, like, you have certain fence posts in your life where you're like, I can't lose that, or I can't at certain times, like, I'm not gonna get to this point, right? And I think for me, there was there's a couple things in my life, honestly, it seems strange, but like, it was like I had a car payment, right? I had my car, and it was the first thing I ever like bought, like this car, when I finally like had got a salary job in Orlando and everything like that. And my biggest thing was like, I'm not gonna get my car repossessed. Like, like I have to keep it. I have to eventually pay it off. And it's small and it's indirect, but like just even having those fence posts in my mind, I had to work. I had to grind. I had to get the freelance job. Like there was no there was no option. Like it was just like I had to make these things work, and I had to build something that was going to allow, the possibility of me being able to even like sustain. And I think that for me, like I would find those little things that was like, okay, I'm going to keep this as a motivation. This is what I want to happen. And then when I started building Kicks to the Pitch, it was like, I want Kicks to the Pitch to grow to this point, or I want Kicks to the Pitch to tell stories like this, or, like, it was like, so what is the work that it takes to put into doing that, and even when the times where like I didn't know, like, oh man, like even like if it's a situation where like, oh man, rent's due, or like, where is it going to come from? Like I was just still working, like people would be like, yo, what are you doing today? And I'm like, working. Like you're just like a forever working,
Right.
And I think this little thing started popping up, and in a similar way, I ended up getting a job as a teacher, as an instructor at a college, teaching bachelor's courses in creative stuff like photography and stuff like that. And that
cool.
helped me have a job, but have the freedom to like do kicks to the pitch and like do these things. So all these things started like falling into place. But yeah, man, it's not easy. It wasn't easy. I would definitely would say like I went through a stage where I binge watched Walking Dead like 5 seasons at that time, and like just like stayed in my room and like
Soul searching.
like yeah. But yeah, things even now, even still, 2020 was rough. Another 2020 was like another time of like, wait a minute, we're back here again.
Yeah, in this place, yeah.
and then you got to figure it out again. But yeah, so I think I just would keep like little small goals, and when I look back on it, honestly, one of the biggest driving forces was like I wasn't gonna get my car repossessed. It's pretty practical, but like that's what it was. Like I just wasn't gonna happen. I wasn't gonna make it happen. And a year ago, I paid off my car. So
love that. Yeah,
it's
let's
just
go.
like yeah.
Worked out in the end. Now, can you tell us more about Kicks to the Pitch? Just what is it? What are you doing for them? And so on.
So Kicks to the Pitch, it's a mouthful in a name, but kicks like the slang for sneakers, to the pitch, the name of the field in Europe, pitch. So it is a connection, an outlet that talks about soccer, but connect as it relates to sneakers, art, music, and fashion. Those are like the 4 pillars. Fashion being like streetwear, music being like hip hop and urban, and art could be graffiti art, could be paintings, could be tattoos, just creativity in general, and pretty much off the field, right? Like, so if you think about the connection between basketball and culture, and how NBA has built this like culture connected to music and sneakers and fashion, and how players have connections to all those things off of the basketball court. We started with the idea that, okay, we wanted to talk about those exact same connections, but with soccer players and with soccer people that love the game of soccer. So that's where we started. And then the guy that started it, he has expertise in live events, activations. And so we had 2 basically pillar like lanes: editorial, online magazine that creates original stories, either photo, video, or written. And with that comes the Instagram. And then also we do agency work with brands to put on live event activations, Adidas, Puma, Nike, for different products that they might have, new boots, new jersey, whatever it might be. And we're based in Los Angeles, which is a hub for North America. Like all these brands want to like push product here. So we would do that, but we would also go to New York. We would do stuff. Done stuff in Paris, so we would do the agency work and the live event activations. They call it experiential activations. So that's Kicks to the Pitch. 2019 was our most consistent year with storytelling, original storytelling. That year we ran an online magazine and we released 11 issues. Of the online magazine in 2019.
And were you featuring like what kind of the stories or what kind of the people were you featuring in this? Any notables that people might know?
Yeah, so we broke the content up into like different content categories. So we had one category about tattoos called Shirts and Skins. The few people we interviewed, DeAndre Yedlin.
Cool, yeah.
Natasha Kai used to play for the U.S. national team. We interviewed Stephen Fry, goalkeeper for Seattle Sounders.
Yeah.
There's one more person in there. Oh, Edward Van Gils, a legendary street footballer from the Netherlands.
Okay.
So he does a thing called Street Kings. They were big on YouTube a little while ago. And he was in FIFA. In the last FIFA, in the Volta. If you play the Volta section, he's like the boss, one of the bosses.
Street,
yeah. So interviewed him about his tattoos. So that was Shirts and Skins. So it was like little short documentaries 10-minute episodes, them sitting down talking to us about the tattoos, right? And so and then we did another feature called Females Football, and that one is like females in the game. They could be players, or they could be fans, or they could be connected to the game, and we do a photo shoot, little video, behind the scenes video, and then a interview with them. So Females Football, we would do that. We did some pieces like Destinations, where we would go to different stadiums and feature the stadiums. And then we would like do other just like editorial pieces on stories. We would chase stories. We did a story about this guy just outside of Manchester. He has a Lego, like he builds stadiums out of Legos, but then he runs like a fantasy league with the Lego players. So there's like people like, you know, purchase seats for the stand, and he makes the people and puts them in the stands. And then there's like games and scores and like outcomes that he does for the game and stuff like that. So we went to his spot, took pictures of his stuff, you know. There's a guy that makes mashup jerseys in the Netherlands. Works for Nike, and so we went to his workshop. You know, like there's just a lot of different like untold stories in the game that we would tell, and sometimes it would collide with notable names, you know, like DeAndre Yedlin and things like that. Yeah,
very cool. And so is there somewhere that you want to bring Kicks to the Pitch that you haven't been before? Are there certain areas, certain things that you want to do, maybe your own creation in terms of a streetwear that's Kicks to the Pitch based? I'm not sure how much you would want to divulge about company plans or anything like that, but do you see any areas of Kicks to the Pitch kind of diving into?
Yeah, I think one thing is like we had some plans, and we probably were going to revisit it, of doing like actual physical releases of the magazine, not on like a monthly basis or anything like that, but more so like just like a limited edition type thing of these stories and these visuals that we were able to capture over the years, and make it like a collectible. I think our logo, we really love it, and like we would love to just like do some merch and like come back strong now that the world's opening back up. 2020 was kind of a downer, and like obviously we talk about, you know, we had to figure out how to navigate it, and you know, a lot of the work that we were planning to have, you know, didn't happen, and so like you know, you kind of have to like redirect the ship and stuff like that. But I think that's some of the goals, coming back strong, you know, telling these stories, editorialized, and then covering games. You know, me personally, I had a career high, you know, through Kicks to the Pitch, and forever grateful for the opportunity. I shot 12 matches at the Men's World Cup in Russia in 2018. And then I shot about the same amount of matches in 2019 at the Women's World Cup, including the Women's World Cup final. And, you know, like those moments are some moments that I'll never be able to replace, you know, and I'll always cherish that. So like, as far as like goals, like the fact that Kicks to the Pitch is a registered media outlet for the United States and recognized globally by global outlets, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
And like we really like sorry, hold on. Okay. Making sure I dropped something on the floor, making sure my dog's not eating it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like I think, you know, we did a lot with not a lot, and in a very short period of time. We gained a lot of respect, and I think that I'm really proud of that, and proud of, you know, the team and what we did. But moving forward, you know, it is something that I never really want to let, you know, we don't want to let it die. And so, yeah, I think you can expect to see more storytelling, maybe some more tangible things. We did a lot of digital stuff in the past, but maybe some more things, like I said, like a limited edition coffee table book, or you know, a hoodie or something like that. And then collabs. Like I think that's kind of like the nature of the way creativity and storytelling is going right now. Like, who can you collab with? How can you bring forces together and use everybody's strengths? And so yeah, probably see more collabs as well.
I like
Love
it.
that.
So now, before going over the events and games you just spoke about, my own curiosity, how does one come about for like a photography credential to get into these games to take pictures? Like how does that process work? Because I'd imagine there's thousands and thousands of people, you know.
Yeah, it is a little bit of smoke and mirrors process. It's like, you know, I when I finally got an opportunity to do it, I was like, wait, this should have been maybe a bit harder. But really
You
how
said
it
yes?
goes is like you have to have a media outlet, an editorial outlet that you can put your name under.
Okay.
And that's where it starts, you know. And so like you can be local, and usually if you're a local team, your local team will like let you in if you're a local new, you know, media outlet saying that you're covering the sport. And that's where it begins, and there's levels to it, right? And so that's where we started, you know. We, you know, like I said, the first game I shot was like that US game, and I think I got that credential through a contact that we had who was like the trainer, no, the equipment manager at the time. And he put us in touch with the communications department, and then I sent an email, and then I got the application form, and I applied and got approved. And so from there, it's this journey of getting in touch with the communication department. So whoever is handling the media credentials, saying, hey, I'm from this such and such outlet, would like to cover the game. And building clout in that way, and building up, you know, to being able to, so for example, for the men's World Cup, every country gets a certain number of allotted media that can be approved for that country, but you get approved through FIFA. So there's a two-step process to get approved by the country's federation, but then you have to get approved by FIFA. So I had to get interviewed by the U.S. Soccer Federation and tell them why I wanted the credential for the World Cup. And then basically they went back, they looked at our outlet, they looked at the work that we did, and they decided, okay, cool, we're gonna allow you to go through the process to FIFA. And so then there's a process where you have to apply through FIFA, and then the credential comes back. So yeah, so that was the journey, you know, but I think we had to put the legwork in of being an actual outlet that talks about the game publicly and puts in our own effort, our own sweat and tears, not being paid for it, like just on our own regard to talk about the game and cover the game. And then you build up that clout, and you build up that clout. And in that, I would then start applying for credentials with MLS All-Star, you know, and so there's different governing, like for example, there's a game coming up with Mexico versus Nigeria in LA. It's either going to be LAFC handling the communications part of it, and you talk to the communications department and you apply for the credential, or it'll be this other organization, which you guys probably have heard about, but some Soccer United Marketing, they also used to do the marketing for the U.S. Soccer Federation. Okay. So anyways, communications department, find the email. Right now that I know this, every time there's a new tournament, ICC, Gold Cup, whatever, I Google media accreditation application for whatever said thing it is. And then usually some type of link will come up, or some type of email in person from the communications department will come up and pop up and go, hey, here's the link, or the link's not open, you know, wait for the link, that type of thing.
Nice.
Sean, we're a little bit of ways from that. Sean wants to know for selfish reasons.
I was just
mean, honestly,
like, I always wondered, like, how do these photographers get to just go there, honestly, and you're watching the game at the best place ever. I mean, like,
you guys are doing the podcast, and no lie, like, you can apply. Like, it's just like, and there's other media too. There's media in the press box, right? Like, there's media, not just soccer, like, you know, like, so like, if you can show that you have a editorial function, and it's covering the game in this type of way, then there's always a chance. And the local is where to start. Like that's the thing. Like,
Right.
and so you start at the local. So like here in LA, we have LAFC, we have LA Galaxy, and so that's where you start.
Okay. Good to
Cool.
know. Very
Yeah.
good to know.
And I assume you just build a network, and then now you know who to contact directly to apply to certain games, then it becomes maybe a little bit easier once you've established yourself.
Once you establish yourself and they know you, they're like, oh yeah, you're always coming out, you're always posting about it, taking because they look at it like, they actually don't look at it like, okay, you're a fan of the game. They look at it like you're taking your time to come to this thing and cover this thing, and then taking your time to make a post and do this other thing, you know.
Right.
And they're not
at the end of the
paying.
day, it's
So
free press for them, right?
It's and so if there's a seat in COVID times, there's been limited press, so the bigger outlets get priority. So that also comes into play. And if it's a bigger tournament or a bigger match, like the final, right?
Then it's
sometimes
tougher.
the bigger outlets will get priority, and they will get put in there, you know, and get pushed through. But you start to make you know, build that clout. So 2018, with us getting accepted by US Soccer Federation and then getting accepted by FIFA, that was like, oh shoot,
huge.
We're in here. And then I was on the sideline with photographers shooting for CBS, there's photographers shooting for USA Today, there's photographers shooting for Getty and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, what's your outlet? And I'm like, Fisher, like, what's that? You know, like it's just you know, in comparison, it's a little small outlet, but we put in the work and got the trust as like a trusted outlet. So
100%.
Awesome. Now, do you have a favorite event or game that you've been to?
That's tough. That's tough.
I feel like there's some Russia stories too. Isn't there some Russia stories?
There's a lot of Russia stories. And in fact, one of the projects that I'm trying to work on, and I'm hella late, because obviously World Cup's next year, is that I'm going to be putting out a couple coffee table books of my own, of my journey, of my trips. I
love that.
Specifically to Russia and then to France. So I'll just tell this one story. Spain versus Portugal. It was the first group match. It was the first match I shot in the World Cup, so I'm already like, oh my god, I'm at the World Cup, I'm on a sideline, what the heck's going on? This is crazy, you know, like and the game's crazy, right? Like the game was back and forth and everything like that. Anyways, Portugal gets a free kick at the top of the box. My position as a photographer, usually you're behind the goal, but then like, because there's so many photographers at the World Cup, there's photographers literally like on the sideline the whole way down and around the field. So I have like a sideline position, because technically that position is not as good. They give the prime corner flag positions to like AP photographers, Getty photographers, those type of things. So my positioning showed like the size of my outlet, essentially, because like I'm like on the side, but I don't care. Like I'm almost I'm like in between like half line and then the top of the 18. So it just so happens literally the free kick is like placed directly like in line with my eyesight. Like I'm looking straight at the field and there's the ball. It's placed down. Cristiano places the ball down. And he takes the kick and he scores. And so I'm like, this is crazy. In my head, I'm already thinking like, okay, this is crazy. I just saw Cristiano score a free kick to tie the game 3-3 against Spain. And he's like, I don't necessarily realize it, but I do. He's running directly to me to celebrate. And so I'm looking through the lens of my camera and I'm just like, wait, what? Wait. And all I'm thinking is, don't F this up. Get the shot. And get the shot. And like, it all happens. He runs, he opens his arms, and then like runs over to the corner flag and then walks back across me and, you know, like celebrating with his teammates. And he looks up like as he walks back across me and just like looks up to the crowd and does his like Cristiano stare, right?
Yeah.
Like his mean mug. So from that, I probably have two of the best shots I've ever shot. I can retire as a photographer, like, even if I don't care. Like if anybody ever buys the photos, it's just like a personal thing. It's like that. I'm like I'm good. Like they're like my trophy photos essentially, and so it's a clear as day. Cristiano Ronaldo, arms wide open, running away from his goal, his free kick goal, tying Spain. And then when he was walking back, he like paused, stopped, and then looked up. And like I have that shot of him just like with his mean mug stare. And yeah. And what's crazy is the photographers that were in the Getty position, they didn't get it. That shot. They might have got the other shot when he ran over to the corner flag and then all the guys that are warming up jumped on him and stuff. But like the immediate reaction after he hit the ball and it goes in the net, he literally turns and runs straight to where I was. And so
I think we have it right here. If this is, can you guys see this?
Wow, you scrolled through that's the sequence actually.
Look at this sequence though.
Sick.
Guys, go to YouTube or go to Rich Impossible to see this sequence. Wow, that's the mean mug stare. Let's hear it one more time. Oh man, to be honest, this is where I would have failed because I would have been like, camera would have been down. I would have been watching. I would have been like, oh,
this is my next question. Do you ever have an issue where you're just mesmerized by watching and you?
Yeah, like the fan and then the actually being employed there.
So it did happen. It happened in this tournament. So this was over a period of 3 weeks. This was like day one, right? Or day two. I had just landed in Russia. So I was like on it, I think. Like I wasn't as tired or like whatever. Fast forward to the round of 16 match or quarterfinal match. No, which one is quarterfinals or first or after? I can't remember. The game's
16,
right
then quarterfinals.
Right, yeah. So the game's right after the group stage. France versus Argentina. Fast forward to that one, and Pavard hits the most insane volley that I have ever seen. I forgot to take a picture of it. Like that's I was watching it. So like if you drew a trajectory again, kind of like in line with the Cristiano goal. So again, I'm facing the Argentina goal, and if you drew like a direct laser from my eyes through Pavard's foot, like it would be a straight line. Like I was looking directly from, like I had the back view. Right, you know, like that view when you always want to see it. You always want to see the back view. The ball bend around. Yeah, because you want to see the trajectory. That's the view I had. I literally, when I saw the ball bounce and I saw him line up his shot, like line his foot up and was like ready to hit it with like a little tiny slice, I audibly said, "Oh shit." And he hit it, and it was definitely going to go in the goal. Like I was like, oh shit. And so like I'm just watching it happen, and my camera's by my side.
Yeah.
And then when it goes in the goal and he starts celebrating, I look around and I hear all the it was like everything went silent for a second, and I didn't hear all the shutters, the camera shutters, and the other photographers firing. But then I was like, oh shit, I need to take a photo of this. But it was too late. Like he was already celebrating, and like the other photographers were looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? Like, so that was my biggest miss.
Hey man, I was here to watch the game.
That was like my biggest miss, because if I did take a photo, I would have literally gotten the back shot,
that angle,
lined up as the foot's hitting the ball, and then a ball flying into the net. Like, but that was my one, like, yeah, I was just here watching the game. I'm sorry.
learning experience, though. I mean, to be at that big of a stage, you know, it's understandable. It's very understandable.
Yeah. But ever
it
since
doesn't
then
make
too,
It doesn't make it
doesn't
better
make it-
nonetheless.
No. Ever since then, though, I'm like, listen, if I'm on the sideline, let me capture these moments. Let
Yeah.
me like
Mhm.
actually do what I'm
Mhm.
here to do, and then,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's all
Yeah.
golden territory.
I would be much worse. So we're going to transition here a little bit into some other projects you may be involved in, more specifically social justice projects that you're involved in. I think it's super important. I mean, you're able to tell a story with your camera and your content and in these outlets. And I just wanted to know maybe some of the things you're involved in and, how you feel your role in the media and content creation can be such a strong tool for change.
Yeah, like one thing I will say is representation matters, and like there's not a lot of guys that look like me on the sideline, and or have a background like mine. And so I think I just know that I have responsibility to like be representation, and hopefully like the doors will open for more creatives and photographers. Like I've always been like the minority in the room in this creative space, whether it's with soccer or not, and even still to this day. And so like, it's just like, okay, I know that I have that responsibility, and obviously last year, a lot of different things came to light, and everybody like kind of like we had to deal with a lot of tough conversations and the tough realities, and soccer didn't shy away from it, and in particular I took a trip to the MLS's back tournament in Orlando, and it was after they did their demonstration with their fists raised, but the mood and the message was still there, and I wanted to go and capture these players wearing the Black Lives Matter shirts before in the training, and like do my part to tell a story from my perspective. And so like actually on my IGTV, I like put little like documentary of the trip, and but yeah, it was just my way of like kind of like speaking to it, and so yeah, so but I'm still like, I started something called Black Smiles Matter with a friend of mine, and it's a way to storytell and speak about Black joy, and the joy that people find through creativity, and so that's kind of like something that I'm doing to kind of do my part, and raise awareness and stuff like that. And then, just keep on having conversations. I'm a big proponent of soccer getting into communities that it's not traditionally in, and opportunities coming up for kids that, maybe wouldn't have those opportunities with soccer because of, it being so heavily pay to play and whatever it might be, not being in those communities. Because I know too, like growing up on my team, I grew up in the suburbs. I was the only again, like the only one on my team that looked like me, like, and like, it's just, it's the nature of the areas in which you grow up, and then also the culture of the sport. So yeah, so those are just a couple of things that, I've been trying to do, trying to find my place and like what I have to offer to the conversation, and to, social justice and change in that way. And then also just like change with soccer, period, like, and seeing the game change, seeing the opportunities open up, in the US and stuff like that. So yeah.
And you kind of mentioned like you have a direct hand in how, some of these areas and these projects and soccer is represented, especially here in the USA. So do you feel like it's a conscious thing when you're making your work and when you're, presenting your work with Kicks to the Pitch, or, obviously with Black Smiles Matter? Like, do you have this intention going into it, or do you feel like it's something, I don't know, that you try and consciously talk about within your teams? Okay, we have to do, more of these things and represent more of these communities, and
Yeah, I think it's something I live on a daily basis,
Yeah.
I think though, from a creative standpoint, it's conversations that have to be had. Like, because sometimes if you don't directly have them, then they'll get missed. Things will get
Yeah.
missed, and you have to address it head on and not be scared of the maybe uncomfortable conversations, to get to like a proper solution or growth or in any area, and specific in like what kicks to the pitch. We had many conversations last year of like what should we post, or what should be the stance as an outlet be. And then I felt somewhat of an obligation as well to like be a voice through the outlet, through kicks to the pitch, for different things, and make sure that like the stance is known. So, as kicks to the pitch, we didn't shy away from it. We didn't shy away from posting the Black Lives Matter on the pitch. We didn't shy away from highlighting the players that want to take a stand, whether it be a knee or a fist in the air or whatever it might be last year, because we wanted to show that, okay, we stand in solidarity with, as an outlet, with how these people are feeling, and so yeah, I think we made that known,
Yeah.
We're in relative, fairly small, but you would get the troll comments and you get people like saying different things, back. But I think just fortunately, like my whole team, was like, we're all on board with this, and we're all on board with this messaging, and this is where we stand. And so I think it's two parts. Like I live it because I've had that experience. I've had my own story and my own experience, with profiling and different things like that. And but not everybody's had experience. So I think it's twofold. It's like you have people in the room that have lived it. That's why representation matters, and that's why you need people in the room, because I can bring my experience. I can't expect someone else to have the experience I had, and so, but then you have to be able to step into the uncomfortable conversations and strategize and talk about how do we move forward with this communication, with this creative, with this storytelling, and yeah. So I just hope that like I can continue to do that, and then be a perpetuant of the change, to see it also on the field, where we start seeing different cultures represented, and I think it's only going to make everyone stronger. So
yeah, I agree. And I mean, just kind of like touching on that role of media, and a lot of people, especially during last year, kind of playing the fence, or maybe posting something but not really taking a firm stand, because I don't know, whether they don't share the same values, or whether as a company you're really just worried about your profits, and you have the trolls and stuff. So do you feel proud working for a company that takes such a strong stance, and just knowing that it's in the identity of the company?
Yeah, and I think it was, in this instance, Kicks is something I helped build, and we're fairly tight knit and small, and I think we made up of a diverse set of people, and I don't think there was any ever really question for me with our team, like what stance we were going to take, right?
Yeah.
Like it was pretty known. I think though, in that sense, like I know that people had to navigate working within organizations that maybe didn't take an initial stance, or stand for justice, or stand for humans, and and so I know that's tough, and so I think for me, Kicks to the Pitch is a I work with people that are my friends, and I think you surround yourself with people that have your back, and so they had my back in a time where last year was sometimes rough, and I think that was great, and I was blessed to have that, and yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing. So a long-winded last question here. We always like to wrap up on this podcast, and we really try and capture the motto, as we explained to you off air, like making your own path. And, you know, one of the reasons we thought you'd be such an interesting guest was because, you know, you hung up the boots per se, and you said you gave a lot to the game. Then it came full circle. You never really left the game. You've just created your own path really within it. And for people who are passionate about something, you know, especially a sport, even if you don't play it or do it, I think there's still so many ways to be connected to it and working within an area that you are so passionate about. So yeah, right after all that, my question for you would be, what advice would you give to people who are skeptical of following a path similar to yours? And how important do you think it is for people to find themselves in avenues that they are passionate about?
So advice that I would give somebody who wants to like take this route, and I find myself like people ask me this question a decent amount lately. Create, you know, like always just don't stop. You know, because you never know who's watching. And it's not an exact science, you know, but it is really how it works. You have to buckle down and just create really great stuff, take inspiration from other things, and then create your own stuff and find the stories that you can tell, because somebody will eventually see it, or you'll meet somebody that will put you in connection with somebody. And then the other thing is like, meet people, network. Every door that's opened and everything that I've like stepped into is because of someone I knew. And like I backed it up with talent and ability or whatever it might be, but it started with a relationship. And so you have to constantly create, but foster human, genuine relationships, because you never know when those relationships will open the door and come down the road and be an avenue to something. And yeah, like I said, it's weird because I know it's not like an exact like, oh, do A, B, and C, and then the next thing will happen. But it's kind of like life in general. Like,
Never
you know,
like
you
that.
want to
It's never that easy.
You want to foster relationships. And those things the relationships is what's gonna lead to other things. And then I think the second part, what was the second part of the question?
How important do you think it is for people to find themselves in avenues that they are passionate about?
Oh, 100%. It's how I live my life. That's how I have lived my life. I went to college to do graphic design in a school that had soccer, when I probably could have had the ability to go and, I don't know, go to law school or go to med school or do something like that. Like, I became a graphic designer because it was something I was passionate about creating. And I'm still living my life pursuing my passions, even though, you know, it's the road less traveled. And it's the road that's not as sure and defined. But we only have this one life. And so I think if you only do things for, you know, at the end of the day to like pay the bills or like make sure that you have bread and like, you know, all these different things. I mean, I've found that those things will get taken care of, right? And while it is stressful sometimes, and you are worrying, like, I now have done things in my life that I've never be able to, you know, like I never would have been able to do it if I didn't pursue my passions. And so I am 100% proponent of doing something you're passionate about. And you can definitely find a way, especially in the world we live in today, to turn that passion into something that also like you can make a living from. And but passion first. That's what I've done.
Passion comes first. Okay.
But I will caution that the passion first comes with its challenges and its hiccups. For sure. It's not like a smooth sailing, like, oh, it's just a smooth road, you know. But I still would suggest passion first.
Love that.
Love that.
Rich, I mean, you answered that so much better than I could have hoped for. So again,
Whoa,
thank you.
all
One last thing is that we have a little closing on this where we just give a few words. So if you could, just at the end, we'll point to you. All you have to
Okay.
say is make your own path. Is that all right with you?
Very cool.
All
Yeah,
right,
it
cool.
works.
All right. So until next time,
Keep moving forward.
keep learning.
Make your own path.
There we go.
Thank you, Rich.
Rich.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Footwork is sponsored by ourselves, but also Kong Fitness and Merchant Designs, baby. Follow us on Instagram at Footwork_podcast. Twitter is at Footwork Podcast. YouTube and Facebook, just check out Footwork Podcast, search it. Email us if you need anything, any questions at footworkpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, plug, pass. Tell your parents, Amazon delivery guy, mailman, I don't know who, just tell them. Like, subscribe, review, all of it helps. Danke.